Welcome back to the Safety Roadmap Podcast. Today, we'll be touching on a topic that's often brought up by those looking to secure their workplace from hazards and care about health and safety.
All right, safety fans. Today's deep dive is, it's all about flammable and combustible liquids. And get this. Our source material looks to be some kind of educational resource, but it's in Arabic.
Oh, wow.
Talk about an international safety briefing, right?
Yeah, it's a good reminder that, these safety guidelines they're pretty universal. And for good reason. We're talking about, liquids that can catch fire.
Right.
And those pop up everywhere.
Yeah.
Not just, industrial settings, but like under your kitchen sink.
That's right. And speaking of catching fire, this source, it jumps right into the difference between flammable and combustible.
Oh, okay.
Which I gotta admit, I mix those up sometimes. Do you ever get those two confused?
Oh, yeah. It's an easy mistake. A lot of people, they think flammable just means something that catches fire, like way easier,
Yeah, yeah.
But the real difference is it's all about their flash points.
Okay, so flashpoint. Remind me, what exactly is a flashpoint?
So flashpoint is basically the lowest temperature
Okay.
that a liquid has to reach before it gives off enough vapor to ignite.
Okay.
If there's some kind of ignition source,
Yeah,
right?
right.
It's not really about how intensely it burns, but more about how easy it is for those vapors to have a party.
So a liquid with a low flash point is like that friend who's always ready to hit the dance floor.
Exactly. And you know what's a great example?
What's that?
Our source mentions gasoline.
Okay.
And that has a really low flash point, which is why, even a tiny little spark can cause a big problem.
Which is why we're always so careful at the gas station.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The source also mentions this whole concept of flammability limits.
Right.
Which sounds pretty important.
It is. And it's all tied to vapor. To make fire happen, you need the right mix.
Of fuel vapor and air. If there's too much vapor or not enough, things just won't ignite.
Okay. So
it's about balance.
Yeah, not too much, not too little, right?
Precisely. And, that's why ventilation is so important when we're working with these liquids.
Right.
We got to make sure that the vapor concentration, it never gets to that just right point.
Right.
Where it becomes a fire hazard.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, speaking of vapor, the source gets into vapor pressure.
Oh.
And honestly, this is where I start to feel like I'm back in chemistry class.
Okay.
Can you break this down for me? How do you think about vapor pressure?
Okay, so think of it this way. You have some liquids.
Okay.
And they love to evaporate.
Okay.
They're really eager about it. They're going to release a lot of vapor and they're going to do it quickly.
And that's where things can get a little risky, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
More vapor means
a greater chance of hitting those flammability limits we talked about.
Right.
Especially in a closed off space, right?
Right.
It's almost like when you try to dry, your laundry inside.
Right.
On a really humid day, all that moisture, it's got to go somewhere, right?
That's a great way to put it. So if we understand, if we know a liquid's vapor pressure, that can help us figure out how to store it safely.
Exactly. And that's where those safety data sheets, those MSDSs, those are key.
Right.
They give you all those specifics for each substance, like, a safety resume for the liquid.
So we've got all these different properties of flammable and combustible liquids.
Yeah.
But how do we actually categorize them?
Okay.
In a practical sense.
Our source uses a really, really helpful example, and it's something everyone knows. The boiling point of water.
Okay.
Which is 100 degrees Celsius.
Right.
Now, flammable liquids, they usually have flash points below that.
Okay.
While combustibles, they're above that.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Flammable, lower flash point, below 100 degrees Celsius.
Exactly.
Combustible, higher flash point, above 100.
You got it.
Okay. And our source, they have some pretty specific guidelines when it comes to storing these different classes, right?
They do. And they actually point out something that a lot of people miss.
What's that?
The construction of the storage area, like the building itself.
Right.
That has a huge impact on figuring out those maximum quantities that are allowed.
Wait, really? I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So it's not just about the container size?
Nope, not just the container.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, so let's say you have a dedicated storage room.
Okay.
Right? And it's got all the bells and whistles, fire protection systems, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
That's going to be way lower risk than storing things in, let's say, like a wooden shed.
Right, of course.
So it makes sense that you'd be allowed to store more in those safer purpose-built environments.
That makes a ton of sense. I never even really considered that the building itself could have such a big impact on the storage limits.
It's one of those things that, once you hear, you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
But it's easy to overlook.
Yeah.
The source even mentions fire resistance ratings and how that plays a role. It just shows how much those construction details really matter.
This is already so much more detailed than I was expecting.
Right.
And we're just getting started. What else does our source say about keeping these liquids in check?
Well, on top of the storage area itself, they really emphasize dedicated storage cabinets.
Okay.
Especially for bigger quantities.
Okay, so not just any cabinet will do.
Right, exactly.
What kind of details are we talking about here?
Okay, so you want something sturdy, right?
Right.
You want fire-resistant materials. Some of them even have those self-closing mechanisms on the doors.
Oh.
It's all about, keeping those potential hazards contained, right?
Right.
And stopping a fire from spreading.
And speaking of containing hazards, I imagine ventilation is a pretty big deal too, right?
Huge. And they're big on not just relying on, open windows and calling it a day.
Right.
For anything, really, beyond small quantities.
Right.
Especially in a workspace, you really want a proper mechanical ventilation system.
Right. Because you got to keep that vapor in check. It's like what we were talking about earlier with the vapor pressure and the flammability limit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got it.
Okay, so we're controlling the environment, we're controlling the containers. What about just the way we interact with these liquids day to day? I imagine there's a whole other, ball game when it comes to handling the stuff safely.
Yeah, for sure. Our source, they spend a lot of time on this, actually, safe handling practices, and it starts with PPE.
Okay, so the basics, right?
Yeah.
Gloves, goggles, maybe a lab coat.
You got it,
Okay.
but it can get really specific.
Okay.
It all depends on the type of liquid and what the hazards are. Like some chemicals,
right,
you're going to need like special gloves.
Right.
Ones that won't let the chemicals soak through or break down the material.
Right.
And if there's any chance you might breathe in the vapors, then we're talking respirators. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how much thought goes into mitigating each specific risk.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, there are so many layers to it.
It really is. And that's what makes this so important. It's like we're creating this safety net.
Right.
That catches not just the obvious stuff, but also the things you might not think about right away.
Right. And it goes beyond just our own personal safety too. It's about the workspace as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. And our source, they're really big on having the right fire safety equipment and making sure everyone knows how to use it.
Right. Which means regular inspections and maintenance too.
Oh, 100%. It's great to have a fire extinguisher.
Right.
But if it hasn't been inspected in 5 years.
Right. It's not going to do you any good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the big one.
Yeah.
Having an actual plan.
Yes.
A real emergency plan and practicing it.
Because even if you do everything right, sometimes things happen.
Of course. And that's when knowing what to do is crucial.
Yeah.
Our source, they talk about having designated meeting points, so everyone knows where to go.
Right.
Clear evacuation procedures.
Right, so you're not trying to figure it out in the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And having contact info for emergency services readily available.
Right.
It's about making sure that everyone knows what to do if something happens.
So it's almost like we're shifting from this mindset of just avoiding danger,
right, to
one of preparedness.
Yeah.
Proactive risk management.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah.
And this source, it seems, maybe a little bit dry.
Right.
At first glance, but it really gives you a roadmap, for how to build that culture of safety.
Okay.
And what I like is they don't just tell you what to do, they tell you why.
Right.
Which is so important.
It's one thing to tell me to wear gloves. It's another thing to explain, hey, if you get this stuff on your skin,
exactly,
it could be really bad.
Exactly. Which brings us back to those MSDSs.
Right.
Those safety data sheets.
The safety resume.
Yeah, they're like the backbone of all this.
Wait, that's where all those details about a specific liquid live. What I find really interesting is they often have information that goes way beyond just immediate handling stuff.
That's right.
A
lot of them will tell you about like specific first aid measures to take.
Oh, wow.
For that substance, or even like environmental stuff, how to dispose of it properly.
Right, right.
It's about understanding the bigger picture, right?
Yeah. It's recognizing that safety isn't just about protecting ourselves.
Exactly.
It's about the environment too.
Precisely. And the source, they weave that in throughout. It's not just a technical document. It's like they're encouraging you to really care about how you use and dispose of these materials.
That is interesting, yeah. It's like respecting the power that these liquids have, you know? And recognizing that if we're not careful, there can be some serious consequences.
100%. I think that's something people forget sometimes.
Right.
But it really is crucial for creating that culture of safety.
For sure. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on one more thing.
Okay.
The source goes into some specific guidelines
for
the maximum quantities of these liquids that you can have in different storage scenarios.
Right.
And honestly, some of these limits, I was a little surprised. Some of them were lower than I expected. It really makes you think twice about, just assuming it's all the same.
It really is. It's like with anything else in safety, just a little bit of knowledge can save you a lot of trouble down the road.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And speaking of knowledge, we could probably get back to those surprisingly low storage limits you were talking about.
Right. Like, for example, I was looking at the part about Class I and II liquids.
Okay.
Which are like the really flammable ones.
Right.
And it was saying, in a space without fire protection, a 120-gallon cabinet can only hold 2 gallons of that stuff.
It seems kind of strange, right?
It does.
Like, shouldn't a bigger cabinet mean you can store more?
Right. Exactly.
But there's a reason for those limits.
Okay, so it's not just about containing a fire if it starts.
Right.
It's about like limiting how much fuel is there in the first place.
Exactly. All those quantities, they're based on a lot of factors, right?
Right.
They look at how the liquid behaves, the size of the container, how fire resistant the area is.
Wow.
They're trying to minimize the risk, even if the worst happens.
So it's like plan for everything to go wrong, even if you're doing everything right.
Exactly. You want to be prepared. And that's what a good safety protocol is all about.
Right.
It's not about getting rid of every single risk, 'cause you can't do that.
Right.
But it's about, managing those risks in a smart way.
This deep dive has really shown me how much goes into these guidelines. Like I had no idea.
It's one of those things you don't really think about until you have to, right?
Right.
But when you need it, it's so important to have that information.
Absolutely. So as we're wrapping up here, we've learned so much about flammable and combustible liquids. What's the one big thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
I think the biggest thing to remember is that safety isn't just about following the rules.
Right.
It's about understanding why those rules exist in the first place. It's about being aware, taking responsibility, and having respect for what these materials can do.
It's like appreciating that these liquids, they're super useful.
Right.
But we gotta handle them carefully.
Exactly. And when we do that, then we can really, take advantage of what they offer.
Right.
But we can do it without putting ourselves or others in danger.
Perfectly said. This has been a fascinating deep dive into a world that, maybe doesn't seem that exciting on the surface, but like always, once you start digging, there's a ton of interesting stuff there.
Absolutely. There always is.
And the more we know, the safer we are.
Exactly.
So to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us. And remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to safety. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.
Thanks for sticking with us until the end of this episode. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen and engage with our content. If you found value in what you heard today, please don't forget to hit that like button. It helps us reach more people and lets us know we're on the right track. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow our channel so you never miss an upcoming episode. We've got some great topics lined up that you won't want to miss. Lastly, if you know someone who could benefit from this information, why not share the video with them? Spread the knowledge and help your colleagues stay informed. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.